All right. Chandler Malone, founder and CEO of Boot Up Studios. Welcome to the podcast. Thank you so much for joining In Depth with Dion.
Dion, thanks so much for having me, man. Before we get started, I just want to, give you, a huge shout out and a major thank you. Years ago, right, when we, first closed, our historic seed round, with all, black angels, and black VC funds, you guys were the first ones, to really, take and, tell the story. And so really appreciate you and really excited to be here with you, man.
Look, I appreciate it. We're just doing our job to amplify and elevate perspectives and stories of people making an impact like you. And what an impact you've been making. So let's get right into it. When it comes to Boot Up Studios, talk about what you do, what problem you're solving, and how did you get into this work?
Yeah. So at Boot Up Studios, we're a venture studio, and the most recent tool that we've built is an AI agent. That AI agent is a co-pilot for entrepreneurs and aspiring entrepreneurs to help take them from ideation to execution. How I got into the work, I've been working at the intersection of, technology, entrepreneurship, and economic opportunity for about the past decade or so. And so, have built a number of companies, in the space, some in test prep, some in job training. But one of the things that I've noticed in this age of AI is not only that, folks have an opportunity to leverage AI for themselves, but also we really have not yet seen the job loss that will come from AI. And for people to actually be able to protect themselves economically, they need to be able to learn and find out how to build their own businesses for themselves.
Economic independence at a time where we are seeing mass layoffs on the federal level, which there are already indicators that we are entering a recession. So there's no telling how much of an impact it's going to have on the private sector. What, as someone in the tech space, in the AI space, what do you see happening and what do you think is about to happen?
Yeah. So the first thing that I want to say for folks is companies legally are required to do their fiduciary responsibility, which is to maximize shareholder returns, maximize shareholder value. It is against the law for companies not to do that. And so, if a company has a way to get work done more efficiently, right, at a lower cost to a higher degree of quality, they are always going to take that. And, that's not a moral argument. That's like the way that our country has been set up. That is the company's duty. And so, with that being said, right, it's like there's going to be, more and more job loss. But also, individuals have a level of subject matter expertise in what they have been working on and what they have been studying and what they have been operating in and doing, for the past decade of their life, right? And so, for folks who are, in the space where, maybe they've recently experienced job loss or, they're stepping into a space where they're concerned, right, about their job opportunities, the goal isn't to reinvent the wheel. The goal is to take what you've been gaining expertise in, what you've been learning about, which you know more about than, a lot of other people in the world because of your work, and leverage that to give yourself the economic sovereignty. And so I think, one thing that holds a lot of people back from starting a business, right, is thinking, oh, I don't know how to do this. Oh, I don't know how to do that. Your
Right.
work, your career has given you a unique insight in how to do something that the majority of the population does not have that same insight to do.
Well, that's encouraging. I mean, I'm down to take all the positive vibes I can take right now with everything going on. I want to give people a deeper understanding of what you've already accomplished. When we first met, it was around the time that you had successfully raised, I want to say, over 2 million for Boot Up, and that was focusing on the job training. Is that right?
Yep. Yep. And so, even to this job training piece, I think, I talk a lot about AI and the labor market. But the reason why I have so much confidence to speak in that space is because of the work that we did, really in the first 4 years of starting the company at Boot Up, right? We helped over 2,500 people get their first tech jobs for over 300 million in annualized salaries. And we're talking top companies like JP Morgan, Home Depot, Best Buy, Dell Technologies, just to name a few, right? And so I
Jeez.
saw how much people were getting paid for these roles, how quickly they were getting hired. And then when these companies started laying people off like crazy, who was getting hired back, who wasn't getting hired back, and so yeah, we were able to accomplish a lot in that. But I think that even helped me to see the opportunity that's coming here for so many people that are going to be and have already been affected. So yeah.
Fair enough. Fair enough. I mean, but it's something that we all have to think about right now, right? I mean, this first few months of this new presidential administration has shown us beyond a shadow of a doubt that nothing is permanent, and that change and chaos is it seems to be the name of the game this year. And so, what would your advice be for people who are trying to navigate, wondering whether they should stay where they're at? Maybe they work for, I have a friend who works for a federal agency, Veteran Affairs in
Yeah.
Oklahoma, and they're wondering what they should do. What would you say to them?
So I'll say if you have a job right now that you like, you're good at, and is paying you well, do not leave that job. I think like you talked about the uncertainty, right? Like you leave a job today and you do not know what you're going to be stepping into in terms of availability of opportunities. With that being said, I would still recommend folks with a job to start working on and trying to figure out what that side hustle for them is going to be. And I don't recommend that you just go quit your job even the moment that your side hustle starts making money. But that what that side hustle does is it starts giving you a level of sovereignty, right? It starts giving you a level of additional ownership over your life outside of just relying fully, right, on the job for your economic viability, your ability to provide for yourself and your family. And so for folks who are in jobs, I would say stack your money. Keep the job, keep showing up, keep doing a great job and keep stacking. Because like those are your resources, right? But while you're stacking, you need to be trying to find, build, create another lane for yourself to generate revenue through, that side hustle, or that startup.
You know, when it comes to AI, I had a previous guest, Tyron Spillingsley, talking about how we can leverage AI, but then also the potential pitfalls of AI. And you've spoken a little bit about, the potential pitfalls. You work with AI. That's, so obviously that you believe that it can be useful, right?
Yeah.
Where are you at when it comes to, the pros and cons of AI and where we're headed with it?
Yeah. So first and foremost, I feel like, just having Tyrants on the show, you're getting, some of the best, perspectives, on AI, like in the world, that's available. And so, that's an honor for me to be, to come behind him, on the show. But I'll say, man, like I look at all technology, that humans have created from the beginning of time in the same way. I say this one almost like ad nauseum, right? But like I look at fire, right? It's like fire is technology. Like when we discovered fire, we were like, okay, we can live longer because now we can like cook our food and like get all the bad shit out of it that's going to kill us. But then also we could use it to hurt each other and like burn everything that we've built, for each other down. And it really depends on how do you want to leverage the technology. And so for me, the things that really matter to me are people's economic viability, right? Like I can't give someone, the drive, to like want something for themselves. But there are so many people that have the drive. What I can give them is the tools and the infrastructure to be able to get there as smoothly as possible. And for me, AI has made what I do infinitely easier, right? Like I look at the test prep company, that we put together, right? Selling test prep for a fraction of the price that any of these books cost, let alone courses. But you get a level of unlimited practice that the books and the courses cannot give you, right? And then like that is the power of AI. You know what I'm saying? And so, I like to focus, right, like on the positive, like use cases of it. And so I think, specifically for folks who have jobs, right, and they're looking, to increase, just their economic sovereignty, right, their economic independence. I think that AI is lowering the barrier for them, right? To be able to build a website now is faster than it's ever been, right? To be able to, put together a business plan, and a sales deck and, a quick demo video, you don't have to have any of the technical skills anymore, right? You have to understand what you want. You have to know which tools to use, and how to prompt them to get the outputs that you're looking for. But what used to take 3 or 4 people to do, one person can do now because of AI. And so, you know, I think that like for folks who understand how to harness it, it could be a really powerful tool.
Okay, fair enough, fair enough. But now I want to get on the more doom and gloom side.
Yeah.
Be realistic, be honest with me when it comes to predictions about we're seeing mass layoffs already, and that isn't really attributable to AI, you're saying. So when AI does start causing some of this, what's that going to look like?
Oh man, one that I love to tell folks, like, and I mean, I feel like we all have, you know, folks just in our lives who, you know, have entrepreneurial bents, and I feel like I had a lot of people in my life who were really intrigued by opportunities in the trucking industry over the past couple of years,
Hmm.
you know, and just one kind of school of thought. I feel like a lot of times when you start hearing a lot about something, it's like a little bit too late, you know. But I'll say that like we see Waymo, and I'm tying this back, you know, to the trucking space, right? We see Waymo getting legalized in more and more cities, right, around autonomous driving, right? There are already autonomous semis that have been built and manufactured, right? Elon's been working on those for a minute. Like those have been
Mm.
out. The moment that autonomous driving is legalized at the federal level, the trucking industry is going to get flipped on its head. Because what's the biggest expense? It's paying the drivers. And so, you know, like I think that like when I tell you like we've touched the tip of the iceberg, it's the very tip of the iceberg. I'll say on another front though, I had a conversation with a few of my friends yesterday who I feel like, you know, are some of the smartest folks I know, some of the best engineers that I know. And I think that in the near term, entry level knowledge work is in a lot of trouble. But if you are at an expert level, you know, if you're managing lots of people, making hiring decisions, those types of things, you're safe. But entry level,
Mm.
I would say, is like very, very, very much in trouble for a lot of knowledge work, even to the point where, you know, I've talked to folks, and this may not necessarily be the advice that I would give to my children, but I've talked to folks where they're like, you know, the best advice to give a young person, you know, who's finishing up in high school right now, you know, is to understand and learn the academic skills as best as possible, but to go pick up a trade because we're further along from there being replacement level AI in the trades than we are, you know, in a lot of the knowledge work. You know, and so that's two things that I would say. The last thing that I would say is in this era of AI, connection with other humans and distribution is going to be key. And so, whatever it is that you know about, whatever it is that's interesting to you, it doesn't even have to be interesting to the world. You should start creating content about it and start trying to create channels of distribution for yourself. Even if you don't know what it is to distribute, having that is going to be valuable as you start trying to build your own business. You need people to sell to, you need people's attention. And so, yeah.
You said so much in such a short period of time, and I want to dissect it. I guess I'll start with the last part. It's not just about having a skill set. It's having a skill set that separates you when it comes to the value that you can produce.
Yep.
But it's also a little bit scary to hear that because when you think about entry level positions, who are the people most likely to be entry level in those positions? Black, Hispanic, immigrants, women, um, and so that's even more of a case, for marginalized or underrepresented communities to really take advantage of tools like what Boot Up Studios is offering when it comes to the AI agent, job training, things like that.
Yep. No, and I mean that's the thing that I will say about all of these edge technologies. Any group that is not the control group in this country is playing catch up. Like we are all playing
Mm.
catch up, right? And so, how do you catch up in anything, right? Like you have events or opportunities that give you outsized returns, right? They give you outsized access. And so, you know, I think like right now, we've been hearing about it a lot, I know, for the past few years, but it's still so early in these things. I think that AI and crypto specifically, those two things have a large amount of opportunity for economic liberation, you know, for our communities. But at the same time, all of these things come with an education piece that is imperative before you actually start leaping into them. And so, yeah, I hear you laughing. I feel like I know where this is about to go.
Nah, I'm just I'm laughing because look, I went ahead and did the Bitcoin thing. It was
Yeah,
already connected to Cash App. Why not? Right?
yeah,
But when it comes to all these other things, I mean, even Doge was a coin at one point. And it's like, how do you tell the real ones from this is just a bubble that's gonna burst? Like, that's where the education piece, I guess, comes in.
Yeah, and I think again, right? It's like we have access to things to like go and use them before a
Hmm.
lot of times we're getting the education. And then it's like
Hmm.
we end up not having the outcomes that we want because we didn't actually have as much access as we thought. You know what I'm saying? Like you had access to like use the tools and play with them, but you weren't in the conversations with the folks who understand what was going on in the background and drove things up and down. And so now you have access to this thing, but your access is actually hurting you because you don't really know how to like frame and contextualize the access. And I'll say, I don't want to make this a whole like crypto and like Bitcoin conversation. But I'll say like I'm happy to kind of explain, kind of like how to be able to tell like what's real and like what's not real
Please.
and how so I think first and foremost, right, the whole reason why crypto was attractive to people, is I mean, you think about how much money we print every year with the US government, right? And what that does is that debases the dollar, right? It creates inflation. It hurts the everyday person. Like we all got those stimulus packages, and I'm not going to say it because I know people needed their stimulus checks, right? But it's like that came back and hurt us on the back end. You know what I'm saying? And so what people like about crypto, and I'd say Bitcoin specifically, is that there's a limited amount.
Mm.
And so because there's a limited amount, the government can't go say tomorrow, hey, everything that you have is less valuable because we just felt like printing more for, whatever like our project or idea was, right? And so that's what gets people excited about it, right? With that being said though, there's such an information asymmetry that there's an opportunity to make short-term gains as a lot of these currencies and as these coins go up. Most of
Hmm.
these coins and currencies have no utility, no value, right? It's like Bitcoin has value because more of it can't be created, so it's a store of wealth, right?
I see.
If
Yeah.
it's a Dogecoin, right, it's like, what's the store of wealth other than it has like a dog and a meme, next to it, And so it's like people like Elon Musk is really smart or Mark Cuban's really smart and they're in it. And so then they're like, oh, it makes sense for us to get in it. But they don't know that Elon and Mark are really just running the trade and the thing has no real utility, And so
Mm.
I think that like for most folks, their crypto investments should really stick within Bitcoin and maybe one or two other coins, maybe Ethereum and Solana. But like outside of that, like the meme coins and all that stuff, like people need to
Hmm.
stay away from those things because that's how you end up losing everything that you worked really hard for, quite frankly.
Fair enough. You brought up you brought up Elon, so I can talk about it now.
Yeah.
Um, with these tariffs, right? The blanket tariffs on basically the world, and then walking it back, just like he did the tariffs on Mexico and Canada, and then walked it back. Trump. Elon actually, after a while, was trying to get Trump to kind of stop or to limit all these tariffs, most
Yeah.
likely because it was beginning to impact his operations. But like, I guess my question is, do you feel like the reason behind those tariffs and the reason behind these um, going back and forth with these decisions is to mess with the market to enrich his friends?
Yeah, I think that there's multiple things. I mean, like obviously, when you have so much power and you have so much money, right? And like those are things that are very like core to like who you are and like your values. You're going to leverage those things to get more of them. And so I do
Hmm.
think that there is definitely a percentage of like, oh, hey, we actually have the power to manipulate the market at this point, and we'll do so in a way that's, beneficial. I will say though, on the other hand, there are a lot of talking points that I like really do not like and like do not agree with, right? Both my parents, government employees, you know what I mean? And so like a lot of these actions and things are like really, really, really like hitting home, in a way.
Hmm.
But I will say that while we are the most prosperous country, in the world, a lot of our relationships are not reciprocal. With a lot of those trade partners, and the way that we're going about it is not the way that I would go about things as a leader. Like I think for me, I like to lead more with tact. I like to lead a little bit more with compassion. I like to lead a little bit more with like unity and those types of
Hmm.
things when I'm trying to get, a deal done rather than, threats and, those types of things. But at the same time, I mean, it's like you look at half my friends who made money doing e-commerce, you know what I'm saying? all they do is they go buy the American thing from China
Mm-hmm.
and then go sell it on Amazon for a markup. Like literally just hurting the American competition. You know what I'm saying? And so like, I do think that, our relationships from an economic standpoint could be a lot more mutually beneficial with a lot of places, namely, China.
Mm-hmm.
I'm not going to act like I'm a tariffs expert. But I think that there's a little bit of, oh, hey, we can make more money. But there's also like, this is actually not sustainable for the country over the next 3, 4 decades. And so, we might as well try to like fix it now versus let the problem, continue. And I mean, like right now, our interest payments to China, who just be copying our shit like crazy. Our interest payments are greater than what the government revenue from tax revenue is every month right now. And so it's like these are things that like we actually like have to fix because it's like inflation is going up because we have to print money to pay our bills. You know what I mean? And so like that money that's getting printed, that's not even getting sent to you and me as stimulus money. That money's just getting printed and sent straight to China. You know what I'm saying? And impacting us and the value of our dollar.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And so, I think like would I go about it the way that, Buddy's going about it? Definitely not. But do I think that like our country actually, does need to have, a good look at how, we're interacting, with other countries like economically? I do think that that's important.
So you think there should be some type of a reset and rearranging of these partnership and these deals when it comes to the tariffs? Would you prefer more of a diplomacy approach as opposed to the bull in the china shop?
Oh, for sure. And I mean, like, even like I do a lot of business in South America. I think a lot of folks who are in the technology industry are just, aware of, the need, for the natural resources that Africa has. And quite frankly, this is something I talk to folks about a lot. I feel like even though, we're literally connected to South America, I feel like China's beat us in South America and in Africa because they didn't lead with guns. They led with money and infrastructure. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? And so like those
Bridge
people want to do business with
projects.
them. Yeah. And so like to the point, like I definitely like I get it, in terms of like us not operating with people in a certain type of way. Because when other countries lead, with a level of compassion and, at the end of the day, it's still what's best for China, but it's just a little bit more
Right.
mutually beneficial and a little bit more tactful. Like some of those techniques have worked, a little bit better, and so.
Mm. And I'm not gonna lie, like I've seen some videos and some reports of workers in Africa being mistreated by Chinese
Oh yeah.
managers of companies, in some cases treating them like dogs. And so they definitely have a leg up in some areas that I feel like you're right when it comes to we do have to compete and we do have to figure out how to not be taken advantage of, but it just has to be in a way where we're not shooting ourselves in the
Yeah.
foot.
And I mean, even to the point that you made about, just the videos of the workers, right? It's like, I don't want to misconstrue what I'm saying here. I'm not acting like, these folks in China are just so benevolent and this, that, and the third. They are doing what they need to do for their gain and their purposes. Just the way that they're going about it is more tactful, which is why it has been more successful. And sure, you see these things which are so wrong, but like, they don't actually care about the people in Africa. They're just trying to like get the resources, but they're just being nicer in how they go try to get them.
Right, right. Well, I wanna ask you something. I only have a few more minutes, but I want to ask you something about you.
Yeah.
We've gotten to know a little bit about the Chandler who has run these companies, got these great ideas, but as a kid, is this the route that you plan to take? And what were your dreams as a kid? And how did you actually get onto this path?
Yeah, basketball was like my whole thing as a kid. I remember though, I think it was like third or fourth grade. It was like one of the first like typing exercises we had. We had to do like a resume for ourselves, and I said I was going to be like a pro athlete, a doctor, a teacher, a lawyer, and like one other thing. I'm like, my teacher was like, "You only have one life, bro. Like,
Gotta pick
you
something.
can't do all of them." But I'll say that I feel like basketball is what opened my eyes up to all those things. You know, when I was in middle school, I was blessed with the opportunity to play on a team where, one of my teammates, his father sold his company to AT&T. And that afforded us a crazy just experience, as middle schoolers. And then, I had another opportunity when I was playing on my college basketball team, to play, with the Golden State Warriors owner's son, and I think
Wow.
those two experiences, right? Like I met, two like really great, just peers and friends, just in, meeting my friends, but also just like seeing the way that their parents were able to create life and opportunities both for them and the people that they cared about, was just like, this is what I want for my life. Like, it's less about like a profession and more about like being able to move in a certain type of way, impact things a certain type of way. I look back at, that team that I was on, in middle school, and every single kid that played on that team ended up graduating from college and like having a tremendous outcome. You know what I mean? And it's like that kid's dad's resources allowed him to do that without batting an eye, like thinking twice about it. He was like, I want to do this. Of course I'm going to go do it. And I think that's what really got me into tech. And I talk about like the things that our community, does. And I think that there is a following of passion that always needs to happen. Like that is important. Like you will be your best self if the things that you are working on are things that you genuinely are interested in and care about. But at the same time, also, you can't just follow the passion. Like, you really need to be trying to look at and think about finding ways to maximize the economic viability. And it's not just because, like, oh, we love money, right? It's like, in this world, your freedom, your sovereignty, your independence, a lot of times is directly correlated with the amount of resources that you have. You know what I mean? And so basically, for me, I'm like, I care about education a lot. Like that's like the thing that like really gets me like excited. You know what I'm saying? And then it's like, okay, if we can put education, economic opportunity, and mix that with technology, mix that with AI, we'll be able to touch more people than, if I just went into a school and, became a teacher or professor. And be able to create more impact in more people's lives at scale. And we'll also be able to make, a whole lot, more for ourselves and be able to have a level of impact and scale, not just from the work, but also from what we've been able to, acquire and accumulate.
Absolutely. I hear you. I hear you. And it speaks to my soul because I've learned so much from reporting on people like you. And, coming from an activism background for so long, I have this mindset that I'm not supposed to make money, that it's immoral to try and make money, capitalism. But at
Yeah.
the end of the day, it takes money to make the changes in society that you want to make and to be able to support the people in the communities you want to support. And so, I think you're really doing important work, helping, you know, people from all kinds of communities, but especially our communities, retake their power and their sovereignty, and economic independence back. So I'm really grateful for just, what you do and what you inspire other people to pursue.
Nah, bro, I appreciate that, man.
Yeah, absolutely. Chandler Malone, CEO and founder of Boot Up Studios. Thank you so much for joining In Depth with Dion.
Dion, thanks so much for having me, man. It's great to see you again.
Likewise.